Sarah did not raise her voice when she stepped forward, but everything about her stance made it clear that there would be no withdrawal. Her body angled protectively in front of the boy, as if she could take in the threat meant for him. And when she spoke the words, "If you guard my son, I will be yours forever." Before we dive into this tale of courage and unexpected kindness set in the rugged West, I'd love to hear from you. Where are you tuning in from right now? Is it a bustling city like New York, or a quiet town somewhere else? And what's the time on your clock? Drop a comment below, and if you're enjoying these stories, hit that like button and subscribe for more adventures that blend heart and history. Now, let's ride into the story. They were not formed by want or trickery, but by tiredness. The kind that sinks into the bones after too many nights spent fleeing, hiding, and watching people she loved vanish. And the boy beside her held the fabric of her dress, without understanding the full weight of what had just been given, sensing only that his life was being discussed in a world where children rarely had a voice. And the cowboy standing across from them understood right away what kind of moment this was, because he had seen it before, in different ways. Despair dressed as deal, survival hidden as option, and for a long moment he said nothing, letting the quiet stretch until it became uneasy for the men watching from a distance, men who thought they already knew how this would finish. Because men like him were expected to accept what was offered, without questioning the cost to the one offering it. And the woman prepared herself for that usual result, ready to vanish as a person the moment she became payment, telling herself that honor was a small price compared to her son's life. But instead of reaching for her or accepting the deal, Jack's eyes moved slowly from her face to the child, studying him not as leverage, but as a life. And when he finally spoke, his voice was steady, free of ridicule or greed, asking a question no one expected him to ask, wanting to know who was chasing them. And when she answered, naming men whose harshness was whispered about, even among those who believed themselves tough, she saw awareness flash across his expression, not fear, but comprehension, because he had met such men before and knew they did not stop once blood was spilled. And then he did something that upset her more than harm would have. He lowered himself to the boy's level, careful not to touch him, as if respecting an unseen limit, and asked his name. And when the child answered, "Timmy," softly, his voice thin with doubt, Jack's jaw tightened, as though a memory had been hit deep inside him, something old and unsettled. And when he stood again, he told Sarah to lower her hand, telling her she did not belong to anyone, not him, not anyone else, not now, and not ever. And the surprise of those words hit her harder than rejection would have, because rejection was something she understood and had prepared for. But this was different. This felt like hope. And hope was risky, because it made room for letdown. And the men watching laughed quietly, thinking this was a show, a display of goodness, before the real price was collected in another way. Within, Jack spoke again, his voice carrying across the open area with a sureness that silenced even the ridicule, telling her he would guard the boy because it was correct, not because it was paid for. and that if anyone believed the child was a trading piece, they were welcome to test that belief. And there was no boasting in his tone, only the firm determination of someone who had already lived with the results of violence and did not warn lightly. And when the men pulled back rather than challenge him openly, Sarah realized that something surprising had happened, something she did not know how to handle, because safety had arrived without control, and honor had been given back to her without being required. And yet fear did not leave her, because kindness in this land often came with a later cost. And as they moved together toward a short-term shelter, Timmy walking between them, she watched Jack carefully, noting how he placed himself naturally between danger and the child, how his focus never fully eased, how he spoke little but noticed everything. And she waited for the moment the truth would show itself, for the request that would surely follow. But none came. And when night fell, he stood guard without complaint, not reminding her of what she had offered, not asking for thanks, not even looking at her in a way that suggested expectation. And as tiredness finally took her, she realized that whatever surprised everyone that day was not only his answer, but the fact that for the first time in her life, protection had been given without a cost attached. As Sarah drifts into sleep under the stars, pondering this rare act of selflessness, let's pause for a moment. Where are you listening to this unfolding drama from? Maybe from the comfort of your home in California, or perhaps on a commute in Texas. And what time is it where you are, day or night? Share in the comments, and if this tale of resilience is resonating with you, give it a like and subscribe to join more journeys like this one. Back to the story as dawn breaks. They did not talk much after that night, not because there was nothing to say, but because words had a way of weakening determination, and determination was the only thing keeping them alive. And by morning, Sarah understood that whatever path lay ahead, it would not be formed by deals or control, but by choices that carried real results. And those results arrived sooner than expected when the men chasing Timmy returned, not carelessly, but carefully, blocking paths, testing distances, forcing Jack to make decisions without delay. And when violence finally came, it was quick and managed, not driven by anger, but by need. And Sarah saw in those moments that he was not a man who enjoyed killing, but one who accepted it as a load he could not fully avoid. And when it was over, he did not stand proud or claim win, or he simply checked Timmy first, his hands steady, his attention complete, before stepping back as if unsure he had the right to stay so close. And it was then that Sarah understood the depth of his earlier refusal, because he had not turned down her offer to reduce her, but to guard something she had nearly given away without realizing it. And as they continued moving together, she learned him not through tales of his past, but through the quiet habits of his actions, the way he avoided towns where questions would be asked, the way he chose paths that favored protection rather than speed, the way he listened more than he spoke. And slowly the future she had prepared herself for, one of quiet endurance and constant fear, began to shift into something unknown and disturbing. A future where she was not controlled, and where decisions rested with her rather than situation. And Timmy changed as well, his fear easing its hold as trust took its place. his questions becoming braver, his laughter returning in short moments that reminded them both of what was at stake. And when the chasers finally trapped them in numbers too large to escape, Jack made a choice that amazed her more than any words could have, sending her and Timmy ahead while he stayed behind, alone. Not as a show of bravery, but as a plan, because he knew they would follow him and not the ones he had already decided were worth more than his own survival. And as time passed without his return, Sarah prepared herself for the usual sorrow of losing yet another protector, telling herself she should have known better than to believe in kindness without cost. But when he finally appeared, hurt yet standing, refusing rest until he saw Timmy safe, she realized that his power was not based in his ability to fight, but in his refusal to leave what he had chosen to guard. And when she spoke again of the deal she had once offered, not as payment, but as choice, he answered with the same steady honesty that had marked him from the start, telling her that staying should never come from debt or fear, and that if she chose him, it should be because she wanted a future beside him, not because survival had forced her hand. And in that moment, she understood that the most surprising response had never been his refusal, but his offer of teamwork. And as they moved forward together, no longer fleeing but picking their direction, Timmy between them no longer scared, the story that began in despair changed into something rare and lasting. A family formed not by exchange or control, but by a man who guarded without owning, a woman who regained her freedom without giving up her power, and a child who would grow up knowing that the purest form of protection is given freely, without request or cost. And there you have it, the end of this heartfelt Western saga where true bonds are forged in the fires of choice and kindness. Before we wrap up, tell me, where did you catch this story from? A cozy spot in Florida, or maybe overseas? What's the time showing on your end? Let me know in the comments, and if this tale touched you, smash that like button and subscribe for more stories that inspire and surprise. Thanks for joining the ride.